Professor, can you please tell me your thoughts on the mind-body problem?
I think in most philosophical inquiries, the problem is always language rather than essence. The minute you say mind-body problem, you make certain assumptions about reality. For example, you make assumptions about the separation between mind and body. You make assumptions about possible interactions between mind and body. You make assumptions about observer and observed, Descartian assumptions. So I think that the question is phrased wrongly. Not your question, the question is phrased wrongly. I don't think the question should be about mind and body. I think the question should be about external and internal. Everything that we are is internal, our body included. We create a model of the world, which, by the way, in psychology is known as internal working model. We create a model of the world where we are the inner sanctum. We are the internal, and all the rest is external. This raises very important questions about the concepts of background and the concepts of context and the concept of information. And the minute you phrase the question in these terms, there is no need anymore to make distinction between mind and body. The experience of the internal cannot be divorced this way. For example, take trauma. Trauma has a pronounced bodily dimension, but obviously trauma has a pronounced mind dimension. Can you truly tell the difference? I don't think so. I think if you were to define yourself as the internal, then the whole problem collapses. I don't think the problem is the body-mind issue. I think the problem is experiencing yourself, the experience of self, which partly is comprised of introspection, proprioception, and so on. The experience of the self. We self-report. We say, I experience myself this way. And that gives the impression that someone is providing the report. Who is reporting? No? But if you divide the world into internal and external, the reporting is an act of externality. It has nothing to do with the internal. When you report to me. I'm always external to you. You could report to yourself, of course, but that would be within the internal. It would not exit the internal. And therefore it would be meaningless as far as the question of body-mind. If we reframe the question in terms of internal and external, we get rid of the dilemma and the conundrum completely. Because any attempt to communicate the internal to the external, by definition, is exclusively external. And so your experience of yourself is exclusively internal and has no external bearing or meaning. It's meaningless. Your experience of yourself is meaningless. For example, can you truly communicate to me who you are and how you feel? Of course not. Never, ever. That's known in philosophy as the intersubjectivity problem. Yeah. And so if we accept that there is an internal realm and an external realm, and that acts of introspection are essentially external, not internal, because introspection is meaningless without self-reporting, then no problem arises. The problem arises the minute you say both mind and body are in the world. They are both external. And now how can we put them together? They're not. They don't have the same ontological status. That's what I'm trying to say.
So does the problem of external versus internal have an analogy of self versus other?
Yes, it's a particular case, a private case.
It's not an equivalence, though.
No, it's a private case. Private case of external versus internal.
Sorry, disembroil for me self versus other and internal versus external. Is one an example of the other?
The other is external. The other is external. The self is internal. So it's a private case of external versus internal. But I can give you another case, for example. Science. Science is a case of internal versus external. Science is external, completely external. And you are, the scientist is completely internal. So can we therefore make any meaningful statements about the scientist in a way which would somehow create a connection with the science? No. I do not think that internal and external are, for example, two facets of one reality. I don't think that they are bridgeable. I don't think that they are communicable. I don't think the science is a reflection of the internal state of the scientist. I don't think so. Even if the internal even if a scientist reports his or her internal state and links it to the science, that would be a totally external act. We have no access to the internal, ever, in any way, shape, or form, not via language, not via philosophy, no way, simply no. In this sense, my attitude is solipsistic. And of course, if you're a solipsist, the question of mind and body becomes meaningless because you are the only object. And so everything is you. It's like God. Would you ask about God if there is a mind-body problem with God? No, because God is everything. God is being. And I think the big mistake we are all committing as philosophers, physicists, psychologists, all of them, is this constant eternal confusion between internal and external. It's the belief, the erroneous belief, that we can somehow communicate internal states, that there is a language bridge which would allow us to convey unequivocal information about our internal landscape, about who we are, about what we think, about what we feel, and that's unmitigated nonsense. There is no such bridge. In principle, there can never be such bridge. And so why ask about mind and body? None of them is external. And the only meaningful questions are about the external world, because we cannot ask meaningful questions about the internal world.
Are you saying that there is an internal world, we just can't speak about it with language?
I don't know. I don't know if there is an internal world. I have to trust. I have to take your word for it. I only know that if there is an internal world, it has no bearing on the external. In principle, can never impact the external, can never interact with the external, it's meaningless in the external. It's nothing to do with the external world. And the only meaningful questions are about the external world. Because you can never talk, you can never speak meaningfully about the internal world. Any statement you make about the internal world is, in the best case, doubtful. It has no ontological bearing and status. Cannot, in principle, have an ontological bearing and status. It's like God, more or less. It's like God.
This sounds different than the way that I hear some solipsists speak, where they're speaking as if everything is internal.
Yes.
And you're saying everything is
Solipsists make
external.
the mistake that they endow an internal state with ontological status. I'm saying I don't know if there's an internal state. I only know one thing. If there is an internal state, we cannot discuss it in external terms. It has no bearing on the external world. And because the only meaningful questions must somehow correspond to an external thing, somehow. You cannot ask a meaningful question that does not correspond to something external to the question. So
this is interesting. This sounds anti-solipsistic.
It's not anti-solipsistic. It's a solipsism that is skeptical. skeptical solipsism, if you wish. Okay, if you want to combine the skeptical solipsism. The solipsist is like the atheist. The atheist says there's no God. I disagree with that. That is a religion. There is God and there is no God. These are, they have ontological equivalency. These two sentences are equal ontologically. There is God, there is no God. It's like a counterfactual, yes? But if I say I don't know if there is a God, that's a valid statement. It's a valid statement about what? About the external world. Not about the internal world of God, not about God's composition, not about God's mind, not about God. When I say I don't know if there's a God, it's an ontological statement about the external world. Similarly, I don't know if you have a mind. I don't know if anyone has a mind. I don't know anything about the internal world of anyone, ever. I think I have an internal world. I'm not quite sure of this either. Could be an artifact. I don't know.
An artifact of?
Artifact of my hardware, for example. There's no ability to discuss the internal world in any meaningful way. And since body, mind are internal, definitely the mind, there's no reason or way to discuss this question meaningfully. It's exactly as you asked me, do you think God exists? Why would I waste my time on this question? Similarly, why would I waste my time on the body-mind question? It has no bearing on the external world in principle. And these are the only meaningful questions I'm willing to ask. I'm a scientist. I'm a physicist.
I didn't ask you if God exists.
No, I know. I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying like if someone said.
If someone asked me, does God exist? I would give the same treatment. I would answer the same way. It's a meaningless question. It's a meaningless question. The mind-body problem is a meaningless question.
If you enjoyed this toe clipping, then the full video is linked in the description. You should also sign up for toe mail, which is again in the description and the pinned comment. You'll receive immediate access to all exclusive updates from the Theories of Everything podcast. It also helps me communicate directly with the core toe community. You'll also receive my top 10 toes. Think of it as the intellectual version of Quentin Tarantino's Obsession.